Professional football in America is a special game, a unique game. Played nowhere else on earth, it is a rare game. The men who play it make it so.
I believe it's about character. It's about who you are, what do you stand for, integrity.
The game is about life, and it's about what you have to do to pick yourself up, to make yourself the best you can possibly be.
I got a scholarship to Nebraska. I had a 17-year career with the Vikings.
It is the ups and downs of the game, the turmoil. Those are all parts of life.
It is my duty, I believe, is to get that message out that you can live with integrity, but you have to have some God in your life to do that.
I've always wanted to be great at everything I've done. I've always been a competitor. I've always showed humility. I'm a team guy.
The values that it teaches you is A, diligence, B, perseverance. There are many more downs than there are ups.
This is such a spectacular game. It's a matter of one's dedication, one's belief in themselves as an individual to achieve greatness.
The game of football has taught me faith, it's taught me commitment, and it's taught me to have a tremendous resolve in whatever I plan to do, I'm going to get it done.
You never dream, no matter how good you may be, that you'll ever be in the Hall of Fame.
Living with integrity, I certainly, honor the values of the Hall of Fame.
This is an honor bestowed not only on me, but for every teammate that I had. All of these people should be celebrated, not just me. It takes the moment from me to everyone but me.
Honor the heroes of the game.
Preserve its history.
Promote its values.
And celebrate excellence everywhere.
All right, and with that, we'd like to welcome everyone here to Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Mike, and I'm going to be kind of moderating our program today, and this is going to be the latest installment of our Heart of a Hall of Famer series. One of the reasons why we really love this program here at the Hall is it focuses on one of those bullet points we had there in our mission statement to promote the values. Those values specifically that we're going to talk about today are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence. And those aren't just values that make you a great football player. Those are values that make you a great person in school, a great person at home. They make you a Hall of Famer in everyday life. So it's one we get really excited about these types of programs. Before we do get started, I do have to thank a few people. First, I'd like to thank our folks out there at Neal Elementary for hosting Mr. McDaniel, specifically Jim out there who's been great to work with. I'd like to thank all of our teachers in all of our classrooms today for kind of opening your doors and embracing those values and embracing this kind of programming. We'd like to thank our folks at Extreme Networks, partners with us here at the Hall of Fame, for everything they do for this program and for schools across the country. And lastly, we need to thank our students, because without you guys, we don't have any questions today. So we're excited to listen to some of the questions you're going to ask of our Hall of Famer and learn about some of the research maybe you've done on his career. So before we turn the program over to Mr. McDaniel, I do want to share one more video. It'll kind of be a brief introduction on what he looked like when he was maybe wearing number 64 for the purple up there. So we're going to do that, and we'll be right back and get into some opening remarks and our question and answer. All right, and then just to build a little bit on that video, I want to share a couple more facts about our Hall of Famer today. You know, the Minnesota Vikings used their first-round pick in the 1988 NFL Draft on guard Randall McDaniel. He was an All-American four-year starter at Arizona State, and he immediately became a starter for the Vikings and played in all 16 games his rookie season. McDaniel played for the Buccaneers in his final 2 years before retiring from the NFL in 2001. He was considered to be one of the best offensive linemen in NFL history. He was named to the NFL's All-Decade Team in the 1990s and was then enshrined here in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2009. During McDaniel's Hall of Fame speech, his presenter, O.K. Fulton, said about him, and I quote, "Randall McDaniel is a great fellow who happens to be a great athlete and a player with the greatest character." After he was done with playing in the NFL, McDaniel began working in elementary schools, as you guys probably know. He helped students read, solve math problems, and he was recently introduced by our president here at the Hall of Fame, David Baker, at Viking Stadium as, quote unquote, the greatest elementary school teacher of all time. He's shaking his head there, so maybe we'll get into that. And I think he did that when Mr. Baker called him that as well. But he's truly one of the great players and one of the great guys of the game. So if we could all, and I'll help you out here, if we could all please unmute our microphones, and we're going to give a warm round of applause to our Hall of Famer, Gold Jacket, Mr. Randall McDaniel. I think we had even a slow clap that started to break out there for you, Mr. Randall. I think I heard that in there. So with that, I would like to turn the program over to you. If you have a brief, any opening remarks or anything you'd like to share with the students before we start our question and answer.
Yeah, I'll be brief. And I figure there's a lot of questions out there. So good morning to everybody out there. Glad you could join us today. Looking forward to all the great questions. And I know we're going to talk a lot about character and the things that character are made up of: integrity, respect, commitment, excellence, and all that hard work. Like I said, we can control how our character is shaped by the choices we make today. So I want to talk about that, but I do want to share a story about a group of young men. And I don't know if people have seen it. People in Minnesota may have seen the story about the bullying going on in Mankato. But you talk about character for these fifth grade boys to do what they did. A young man at their school was getting picked on, getting teased because he was a little different from everyone else. And these 5 young men decided on their own over the summer that they were going to make a difference in this kid's life. They were going to be part of his life, that they were going to make him be one of their friends. So they showed up at his house and said, "Hey, we just want to hang out with you. We want to make sure no one picks on you anymore." And so these young men have done that. Every day at school, they sit with him. They read with him. They play football with him at school, and they have brought him into their family. They go to his house and spend time with him. He has guests come over, which he had never had happen before. I met these young men 2 weeks ago at a football game, and I met them all. And I go, "Why'd you do it?" And they go, "Well, everybody should have friends. Everybody should have someone do stuff with them and not be picked on, not be teased." And so when I talk about character, it's those types of things. No one made them do it. They chose to do it on their own. They got together without their parents telling them to do it. And they're going to be part of that young man's life until their adult life. So that's what I talk about character. It's what you do when no one's watching, when no one's around. And that's what makes good character. And so those are the things I like to talk about. But like I said, I'll keep that brief. So I know there's tons of questions out there. So you direct us in which way you want to go with this.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. And before we do the Q&A, we'd like to address, we have a couple folks that are viewing in on a non-interactive basis, but we would like to welcome any questions for them as well. So for those folks and our folks that are tuning in, if you have any pictures, any social media, anything you guys are doing, please include our handle here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is @ProFootball, HOF, and then please use the hashtag HOF_values, so HOF values. And we will interject those as we have time. But as Mr. McDaniel said, we're going to get started with the Q&A. So in our first question, or actually is going to come there from right in front of you, sir. We're going to go out there to Neal Elementary, and if we have a student that'll kick off our program for us.
Who has questions? Go ahead.
Who do you rely on for support?
So his question was, who do I rely on for support? Wow, I have a lot of people I rely on for support. I mean, there's my wife, there's my family, the people. I mean, people here at school. You rely on them for support. I mean, I always said there's nothing wrong with asking questions, asking for help, because that's how you're going to be shaped. So, family, friends, wife, I have a lot of support. You guys may not know that, but I do. I go and ask a lot of people. A lot of people help me out throughout the day. So I rely on those people for support.
Cool. All right, our next question is going to come from our folks out there in Phoenix, Arizona. Esperanza, if you could have one of your students ask our second question of Mr. McDaniel.
Sorry. Stand in front of the camera. There you go.
Can you tell us about a time when you wanted to give up but instead showed commitment and kept working towards your goal?
So I'll tell you about a time when I might have wanted to give up, but didn't, and kept working toward my goal. Probably when I was 12 years old playing baseball. I didn't think I had the best coach at the time, and I loved playing baseball. And I told my dad that I'm not going to play anymore because I didn't think the coach was doing a great job, and I didn't think our team was where it was at. And my dad told me, well, yeah, you can quit and give up, but then that's going to follow you the rest of your life. Or you can go back and work with that team and try to get them better, and work with them, help them out that way. And he goes, and I think you'll be much better off. So I went from almost quitting to listening to my dad say, go back and see if you can help others get better. And so that's what I did. I went back and I stuck it out. And it actually did. I mean, like I said, today, I talk about this a lot, that I never give up on anyone. I always work hard to the completion. It's about getting the job done. I mean, and I hate leaving stuff undone. So I came close, but I made the choice to go back after talking to my dad. Very cool.
Our third question is going to come from our friends that are joining us out there in New Jersey, actually. So if we go out there to Mary Ethel Costello School, and if we have a student out there ready.
Yes, we do. Go ahead. Who's number one? Well, Steven.
Well, he's even got the Vikings jersey on there.
I like the jersey.
Get a little closer. There you go.
Football is many times referred to an ultimate team sport. How do you think teamwork teaches you about life?
Oh, okay. So teamwork, football being the ultimate team sport and teaching you about life and working together. Like I said, I played on the offensive line. So it was us 5 guys playing as one. And we all had to work together in order to achieve our goal. I'm the same way now as when I work with other people. I mean, you work in a school, you work with other fellow staff members. You got to work together. You got to be able to pull together, come together, and not just have one person do everything. But yeah, football has taught me a lot about working with other people. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work in different schools along the way. And every time I go there, it's new people that I get to meet, new people I get to learn to work with. And from my playing days, I'm so used to this, hey, let's make it happen. Let's get together. Let's figure out a way that we can all come together. And so playing sports did that for me. I mean, I talk a lot now. And I used to be a real quiet guy. And through football and sports that I played, I now will talk more than I normally would. And so it's taught me that in life, too. That, I mean, you have to ask those questions. You got to be able to work with other people. So it has taught me that throughout my career.
We're going to go then out to Zachary Lane for our next question, if we have a student there.
After you played all those years, would you recommend playing football to kids today?
Oh, wow.
Wow. After playing all those years, would I still recommend it? Yes, I would. Like I said, football teaches you a lot. I mean, sportsmanship, fair play. I mean, how to solve problems along the way. God, there's so much. But I like the part about sportsmanship. No matter win or lose, end of the game, you go shake that person's hand that you played against, and you learn from that. I don't like it when people don't shake hands or don't try to get better. I mean, you can always get better, win or lose. So it gives you more to do. But yeah, I would still recommend it. I mean, my nephews play, and I always tell them, hey, if you get knocked down, you get back up, and how can you do it better next time so it doesn't happen again? But yes, I would still recommend that kids play today.
Our next question is going to come from another school out there in Robbinsdale area, the SEA. If we have a student there that is ready to ask their question.
How did your college degree from Arizona State influence what you're doing now?
Can you repeat that, please?
How did your college degree from Arizona State influence what you're doing now?
How did my college degree from Arizona State influence what I'm doing now? Well, my degree was actually phys ed when I first started. I always knew I wanted to work with kids. I just never knew I was going to be in the classroom most of the time instead of being in the phys ed department. But everything I've ever done has always been working with kids. As he said in the introduction of me, my high school principal was the first teacher that I ever met that wanted to get to know me and not the athlete. He wanted to know who the young man was. And he made that difference in my life back then. And I thought, God, if I could ever do just a little bit of what he had done, that's what I wanted to do to give back. So my degree from Arizona State gave me these opportunities to do what I do now, which is I get to work with kids. So I'll keep doing it as long as you guys want me around.
All right, we're going to go then out to Northport Elementary. If we have a student there that's ready to ask a question.
And people criticize you and that stop you from being one of the best.
I think if we could repeat that maybe.
And people criticize you and has that made you one of the best?
I think if you could hear there, Mr. McDaniel, is if people criticize you, how did that maybe make you one of the best at your craft?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, are we ready? Playing sports, you get criticized a lot. I mean, everything you do is always filmed, and it's always that third eye watching you. Yeah, I think it made me better. I mean, I like to know if I'm doing things right or wrong. I like to know if I'm helping or hurting the team. And so if the coaches are correcting me, and same in the classroom, if they're grading my work, I want to know how I can get better, and I want to make sure I can improve. So yeah, the criticism that I got along the way actually helped shape me today. I mean, it pushed me a little hard to go work a little harder, to do things a little more. But yeah, I'm one of the best. I know a lot of people don't like to hear criticism. I go, but it also shapes your character. I mean, those choices, you listen to it, and it's what you do with it after you hear it. And for me, it always made me want to get better. And so a little criticism doesn't bother me at all.
All right. We're then going to go out to our friends there at Meadow Lake Elementary, staying there in Robbinsdale. If we have a question out there, Allison.
How did you show respect towards your teammates?
I think it was, how did you show respect towards your teammates?
Me? Wow. My respect would mean, like I said, your respect is, for me, it's like you treat others how you like to be treated. My teammates and I got along great. I mean, we would go out and do dinner. I would buy dinner some nights for the linemen after a good game, or I would just invite everyone over to let them know that I appreciate what they were doing, and then we would have our, as we called it, our film session of watching film together and going over what we're going to do for that week. But the respect part was, I mean, I treated them the way I would like to be treated, and in turn they would do the same things. We would rotate what house we were at, and we also invited the coach every now and then, which is, most people say, why would you bring the coach? But he's part of the team. He's part of our family. So the respect part is, like I said, we treated each other the way we all like to be treated, and it went a long way. We still do it today. I mean, every now and then all the linemen still get together once a year in Canton, and so it's always nice to do that.
And we're always happy to have you guys here. Your second home in Canton, so keep on coming back. But our next question is going to come from Noble Elementary. Out there, if we have a student ready to ask a question.
What character qualities do you believe it takes to be successful in all areas of life?
What character qualities does it take to be successful in all areas of life? Wow. I would say I would give you one of these. I would go with courage. I mean, courage to do things that you're not comfortable doing, that it takes you out of your comfort zone. Everybody's always happy to do what they're comfortable doing, and they stay in that box. I like being pushed out of that box a little bit, because and you got to have the courage to do that. You got to be afraid. You got to be willing to take a chance and step out on that limb for every now and then. And so courage would be one of my big ones. Character respects would help that out. So I hope that answered your question. But yeah, courage is my choice.
Very good. And then our last school in our first rotation is going to be out there at Forest Elementary, another one of our Robbinsdale schools. If we could have a student out there.
Why did you become a teacher and why second grade?
Why did I become a teacher and why second grade? Well, you know, I actually work in the class as a basic skills instructor, but like I said, I love working with kids. Like I said, I will tell you this, all my friends now to this day, they're either teachers or principals. So it was a natural thing for me. And like I said, I love working with kids. So to do what I do, to try to make a difference in people's lives is what I try to do each day. Some days are great, some days are rough, but I say this, even on my worst days, I still love it all. So I figure I'm trying to make a difference in someone's life and along the way. And if I can do that, I figure I give back in that way. And well, like I said, I will always keep doing that.
We'll go back out then to the students that are sitting in front of you there, Mr. McDaniel, for starting our full second round of questions.
I don't know who has all the questions.
What are you most proud of in your life?
What am I most proud of in my life? Wow. Everybody would assume that it was playing football, Hall of Fame and all the All-American honors. And no, that's not it. Proudest moment in my life, graduation from Arizona State and getting my degree. Like I said, I mean, football is only, the average in football is 3.5 years. I was fortunate enough to go past that average. But not knowing what was going to happen in football, you got to have that backup plan. That's what I tell everybody. So I got my degree. My mom, she will talk more about my degree than she will about what I did in football. And my mom never watched a game when I played. She would crochet and make all these nice things for me. So proudest is getting my college degree.
Very cool. One of the stats we like to share here at the Hall of Fame, Mr. McDaniel, is that if you're a high school senior playing football, you have a 0.02% chance of making an NFL roster. We did a program last weekend with Willie Lanier, and he said if plan A is being a pro athlete, make plan B your plan A.
Yeah.
So it speaks to the importance of the education side of things. So we're going to go back out then to our friends out in Arizona. If we have a question of Mr. McDaniel, please.
Okay.
What inspired you to be a football player, and were you always good at it?
What inspired me to be a football player, and was I always good at it? You want to know the scary part? I was a better basketball player than I was a football player. The position that I played in football, that I made it in, it was offensive guard, but I started as a tight end. What inspired me? But no, I love playing sports. Any sport I played, I loved doing it. And I figured if you're going to do anything, you got to do it well. And I was fortunate enough that when I went to Arizona State that I made that switch to a new position and never looked back. And I was fortunate enough to play in the NFL, get drafted and everything. So, yeah, inspired me. God, I don't know. Well, that's kind of hard to say. What would inspire you? I know I'm asking help. I'm asking for help here for a second. No, I would say this. My mom and dad, they always pushed. They always were right there. They were always there to support me. And so with that, knowing that they were always there, it made it easy.
Very cool. All right, we're then out to New Jersey. If we could have a student there to ask our next question.
When you signed your NFL contract, what were some of the rules and things that you could not do?
So when I first signed my first NFL contract, what were some of the rules? There really wasn't too many rules. I mean, you're supposed to be responsible for what you did back in those days. So your job was to play football at that point. So you wouldn't want to do things that were going to jeopardize your career. But they really didn't have many rules back in when I started. Teams had some in that they didn't want you to have a motorcycle because there, no helmet, no protection, nothing around you. Today, with the new contracts and going on now, they do have certain rules in for them now that they're not allowed to do certain things because with the money that they're paying the guys today, they want to make sure that those players are able to play. So today they have a few more rules. Back when I played, the only thing they were really worried about was you not getting hurt, and so they didn't want guys riding motorcycles, which is probably why I never got a motorcycle.
And I see we have a student out there at Zachary Lane. If we could go ahead and ask that question for Mr. McDaniel, please.
How did playing football help you build character?
Wow, how did playing football help me build character? Like I said, hard work. How's that? Playing football, you had to work very hard and you had to learn to work with teammates, and you had to learn how to get along with other people. So playing football, that helped me do all those things. And it helped me meet people too. It also helped my character for getting out, talking to people, and making those good choices. So that football helped me do all those things.
Cool. All right, and then we're gonna go out to, again, it seems like a theme today. We're going always to Robbinsdale area schools, so good following there. But if we could have a student out there at SEA ask our next question of our Hall of Famer.
What person inspired you, and what did that person do to inspire you?
If you couldn't hear that, Mr. McDaniel, was what individual inspired you, and what did they do that inspired you in that way?
Like I said my parents earlier were my big inspiration, but I'll go back to Mr. Fulton. 8th grade showed up at my school, and I'll be honest with all you kids out there, I wasn't the best student when I was in elementary school. I got in a lot of trouble. And you're talking about making choices in your character back then. So everybody was getting to know me as an athlete, and then a lot of trouble. I wasn't making the proper choices. But a person that inspired me was Mr. Fulton. Came over the start of my 8th grade year and said that he was going to get to know the young man and not the athlete. And he said he would always drop in on me to make sure I was doing the right things. He showed up everywhere. Even when I was not making the right choice, Mr. Fulton showed up somehow, some way. But he kept telling me that sports could take me other places. It could get me the opportunities that I didn't think I had. And he was correct, but he was always there, always in my corner, always backing me. And like I said, when I go out to Arizona now, we always get together for a round of golf, and I still sit down and let him tell me some things that I need to be doing still to even get better. So I'm always working on it too.
Very cool. And for those of you who don't know, Mr. Fulton, who he's referencing, was the gentleman I shared the quote from earlier, who gave the introduction or presentation speech for Mr. McDaniel during his year here, where he was enshrined in the Hall of Fame. So it's quite an honor to be in that position. So we're going to go then out to Northport. If we have a student ready there to ask our next question.
How did your family support you during football?
How did my family support me doing football? Was that the question?
Yes.
How did my family support me doing football? Wow. In high school, they were, like I said, because high school, they were always there. I think I drove my mom nuts. The fridge was always empty when I played growing up. But my mom always made sure I had a meal in my stomach and had the proper nutrition so I could go out and play. And then she always made sure my homework was done. I was always told if I didn't get the grades, I was not allowed to play. And my mom was serious. I know most people say their dad would do it. My dad goes, "You're going to listen to your mom on this one." And I did. So they were always there supporting me early. And like I said, you make choices that influence and change, shape your life and affect your character. And I almost screwed up my freshman year in college, and they did send my grades home. And my dad met me when I came home, and we had this nice father-son discussion right in the middle of the street. And I changed my ways, made better choices, and I made the dean's list from that point on. So my family has always been there to support me. And they did it in many different ways.
We're going to go then out to Meadow Lake for our next question. I see we have a student ready there.
How did you show integrity on the football field?
All right. It was how did you show integrity on the football field?
Oh, how did I show integrity on the football field? And a lot of times integrity is the things that you do when no one's watching, for me. And But on the field, everybody saw what I would do. It was off the field or on the field when the cameras went on, when I would go out and work. And so my integrity was, for showing integrity, was on days when, I don't know if the kids know this, but I had the worst stance in the NFL history. Most people can't work from that stance playing offensive line. And my line coach told me if I can't do my job from that stance, I was going to have to go back to the normal stance. And so showing integrity, every day after practice when I got into that stance, I would work on it for an hour after practice, making sure I could do everything out of that stance, from pulling left to right to pass sets to run blocking. And I would work on it over and over. And there was no one out there telling me to do it. It was just, I did it. And as I say, that's what I think integrity is doing those things when the camera's not on you, when your teacher's not watching you, when the coaches aren't around. It's just you, and you're making the right choices out there doing that.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go then out to Noble, if we have a student out there that's ready with a question.
What are some examples of times that you've had to persevere through adversity?
Could you hear that, Mr. McDaniel?
That part, something about persevering through adversity?
Yeah, name a time maybe in your life or your career where you had to persevere through some adversity.
Oh, it's a life or career. Yeah, everything always relates back to football a little bit in life. How about you know what, probably when I first switched positions in college, I had to get through that. Everybody assumed that it was over, that you're giving up on yourself and you're not going to be able to play football here. Like I said, I switched from tight end to guard, and I figured I just wanted to help the team. I just wanted to be part of it. And if that meant starting over, learning a new technique and everything, then I was willing to do it. And I mean, again, I was talking about working hard after practice with coaches. I mean, I think my line coach, Tom Freeman, probably didn't like me for a while because we were outside on the field. After the 2.5-hour practice, I would make him stay another 2 hours, and we would repeat practice, just him and I, trying to work through it so I could get better, so I can actually have that opportunity. And I kind of do that in life. I mean, same things when stuff comes up that you think you got a challenge in front of you. There's no challenge too big. I mean, you can always find a way to work around it or get through it. And then you ask for help. Like I said, I ask my coaches for help. I always ask my family for help. And my best friends, which they were my college teammates, and we still do stuff, and I still go to them whenever there's a problem around that I need a little extra help or someone to bounce things off of.
All right, we're going to go then out to Forest Elementary. I see we have a young lady there sitting in front of the camera.
Which of the 5 gold standards of character would you say is your weakest and why?
Ooh, my weakest? Wow. I don't know. I'm always working on all of them. Weakest. God, they all could always use some work. I don't know.
We've stumped them. That was a great question.
Oh, you can't stump me. No. Probably the weakest, I would say this. You're working on excellence. You're never going to be perfect. No one can ever be perfect. I mean, I'm in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I never played a perfect game ever. I graded out close, but never reached that peak where I was perfect. So as far as excellence, I think that might be my weakest, because you're always working on that. You're always trying to strive for excellence. And you may never get there, but it's the process of working hard to try to obtain that. And so I would say that might be my weakest.
Great answer. All right, then we're going to go right back out there to Neal Elementary, those students that are part of our live audience. We have a student there ready.
Just call one out. Go ahead.
When did you realize how special your talents are?
When did I realize how special my talents were? In sports? Wow. So when did I realize how special my talents were in sports? You know, that's a scary thing. I know most kids play sports today. And if they start showing promise, then they start working on it from when they're 8 years old and they keep going. I played every sport there was. I mean, and from football, baseball, basketball, I ran track, I did them all. And for some reason, sports came easy to me. I never had to struggle in sports. That was the easy part. School was harder. School gave me fits. but I had to do the schoolwork in order to play sports. But I will say this: when I realized that I had an opportunity to play or make a living playing sports, was probably my junior year in college when one of the scouts came to me and said, "You should come out early." And I was like, "No, I'm not." But I didn't come out early. I stayed in. But my junior year is when I finally realized that I might have an opportunity to actually play football for a living. And then when it did happen, I just took it and ran with it.
We're going to go then out to our friends out there on the West Coast again, out in Arizona. If we have a student that's ready out there.
You? Okay, Hector, you go. Since she raised it. We're coming. Okay, come on. There you go.
What do you do now that you are retired? Do you still think it's important to live by the golden standard of character off the field?
What do I do now that I'm retired? It's still important to live by the golden standards of all those things: the integrity, respect, courage, excellence, and all those. Yes, I do. Now that I'm retired, I don't know if they said it, I work at a school. I work at Neal Elementary School. I'm a basic skills instructor, and that's what I do. And I do think it's important to live by those standards still. You guys may not know this, but my wife and I run a program called Team McDaniel, and we do community service work. And we do that. We instill those values in our kids. Are part of Team McDaniel about doing the right thing, doing things for others, and all those gold standard characteristics. And so I'm working in the schools, and I'm still trying to influence kids to do those things too. So when they become adults, that they will also give back and follow those same standards and those same rules.
All right. Well, we went to Arizona. We're going to now jump back to the East Coast out there in New Jersey. If we have a student that's ready there at that school.
Did you ever take on a leadership role as a youth? If so, what was it?
Did I ever take on a leadership role as a youth? And what was it? My wife and I talked about that question last night, and we didn't think anyone was going to ask me that, because a leadership role growing up, I was a different type of leader in a leadership role. I mean, I was a quiet person that played sports, but I could always talk to guys and get them to get the job done and work with them. So I was never the guy that you would see out front saying, "We got to do this," and as I call him, the main guy, like the quarterback or that. But I was always the guy that would pull people aside and have talks with them, or small groups, to get them to work harder for the team and make them realize that it's not about them. It's about the team. I would get them to realize that, and I say this to a lot of kids, that it's not about the name on the back of the jersey. It's about the name on the front of the jersey. And so my leadership style was doing that, just getting small groups together and talk to them that way and trying to inspire them to do the right things, but not ever out front running. That work for you? Thank you.
Perfect. All right, we're going to go then out to Zachary Lane. I see we have a student that's ready there in front of our camera.
Who do you give the most credit to for helping you become a man who you are today?
Who do I give the most credit to for helping me become the guy I am today? My mom and dad. And then, my third grade teacher, Mrs. Pyle. She was the first person to keep me in for recess for a lot of things. But she was also the first person that, I learned my multiplication facts in her classroom. I like candy, and she gave away M&Ms every time you learned your multiplication facts. So, yeah, that's why I eat a lot of candy, too, also. The kids here don't, and I love candy. I'm trying to cut back. But, no, so my parents and Mrs. Pyle, my third grade teacher.
Very good. All right, we're going to go then out to our friends there at SEA. I see we have someone standing there in front of the camera as well.
Do you like teaching more than football, or football more than teaching?
Do I like teaching more than football? Do I like football more than teaching? Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I like working in the classroom more than football. Like I said, football and playing sports was a game for me. I mean, that's what I still consider that it's just a game. It teaches you valuable lessons in life, but it's still a game. I think in the classroom, like I said, when I first started, I used to volunteer. And the things that the teachers and the people in the schools, the things they do and what they deal with and how they work, I think is more important, because you need that education. As we were saying earlier, not a lot of people are going to get the opportunity to play sports or professional athlete. At some level, it's going to end for people. But being in school, getting kids to realize that there's other things out there that they can do if they don't play professional sports, I think it's a bigger deal. I think that should be number one priority. And then if you play sports, just remember, not everyone's going to have that opportunity. I hope everyone would get that opportunity, but the likelihood is really slim. So working in the classroom I think, is more important than working out in the field.
We're going to go then to Northport Elementary. I see we have a student ready there at the microphone.
What was your biggest struggle in the NFL?
What was my biggest trouble in the NFL?
Your struggle.
My biggest struggle in NFL, don't leave him yet. As for playing, or
What were you playing?
when I played.
Yeah.
Okay. My biggest struggle in the NFL when I played. That's kind of hard to say. It's just my biggest problem, because football, like I said, football was always the easy part for me. I know looking at me now, you wouldn't think I had a struggle, but I had a hard time keeping weight on. I was always told I was too small, and they kept telling me I had to gain weight. So I don't say you should do this, but for the first 4 years when I played, my struggle was to keep the weight on. So I used to weigh in with 5-pound weights with pennies to make sure I was always at the right weight. So my struggle was to try to keep it hidden from my coaches. And then I finally told them after 4 years. I figured, what am I going to do?
Very cool. All right, that's a good story. I like that. So I see we have a young lady there in front of the camera out there at Meadow Lake. If we could go ahead and ask our next question.
How have you been courageous?
I think the question was, how have you been courageous?
Oh, how have I been courageous in life? Much as my biggest fear is doing what I'm doing right now. And I think it's stepping outside your comfort zone. Public speaking, it's my big fear. But I do it. If it's for a great cause or getting a message out there, I will always do that. I may have them move the podium away so there's no podium, then I feel a little more comfortable. But for me in life, being courageous, is to get out and talk to people. That's always been one of my a hard thing for me to do, and so I have to get over that, and I find a way to challenge myself to do that still.
And we do appreciate it, Mr. Medina. It's just us and maybe, I don't know, 100, 200 of your closest friends. We do appreciate your time and the message. So we're gonna go then out to Noble Elementary. If we have a student out there that'll have our next question.
At Noble, one of the acronyms we use in ROAR is respect. In what ways has this character trait helped you through your success in the NFL?
Like I said earlier, the respect part is just, like I said, you treat people the way you would like to be treated. If you're only worried about yourself and you're treating everybody like they're second-class citizens and only thinking about yourself, that's not a good way to treat people. You always got to treat other people with respect, and then that means, as I always say, you got to treat people the way you would like to be treated. And it goes a long way. Like I said, respect, that is all of respect. It's just treating others well, treating yourself well. You got to respect yourself too before you can respect anyone else. So that's always a big thing. You got to treat other people well, and that's what I always try to get kids to do, or get people that I know to do those things.
We're going to stay there in Minnesota then and go out to Forest Elementary if we have a student that's ready there with a question.
What advice can you give young people about how to develop their character?
What advice can I give young people to how to develop their character? Like I said, your character is all those choices you make in your life. You're going to have, I'll use this story. You're going to have friends out there that you do things with that's going to affect your character if you're going to do the right thing with them or you're going to do the wrong thing with them. And I'll give you a story of me walking to school one day with my buddies that I grew up with in my neighborhood. And we all grew up together. They were better athletes than I was, but we always played with each other. As we grew up, they would always do more things that would, as you say, developing your character, that was going to give you a negative image on your character. And they would try to get me to do those things with them. And then I would always make the choice that, hey, I'm not going to stop and do that. And like I said, one morning we were on our way to school in 8th grade, and they decided that they were going to do something that I would not do. And so I left them there. And that's a hard thing to do when you're young, is to not go with your friends, even though they're your best friends. But I kept going to school. I went to school, and later on I found out they got in a lot of trouble. And like I said, so they made bad choices that influenced their character and the things that they could do in life. And I made the choice that day that, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not going to let other people influence me on what I should do in negative ways. I was going to do it positive ways. And if they were not going to be my friends after that, then I really didn't need them as friends. Like I said, I still talk to them today. They still make some bad choices along the way, but those things like that, with being young, influence your character along the way, would make you who you are today, and it can help you along the way too.
We hear a lot about negative peer pressure. I think that's what you were speaking to there, but there is such a thing as positive peer pressure, and surround yourself with the right people that have the same kind of goals and your best interests in mind. So that's another piece of advice we can take away from this program. We're going to then stay right there in front of you, Mr. McDaniel. I think we have time to do maybe one more time around. So if we have a final question there from Neil.
What was your first reaction when you found out you were going to be inducted in the Football Hall of Fame?
What was my first reaction when I found out I was going to be inducted in the Football Hall of Fame? Football Hall of Fame? Do I have to share that with you? My first reaction when they made the announcements, I actually didn't see them make the announcement. I tried to keep everything normal. So I went around, and I would go fast as I can. I went out and got my haircut like I always did on that day. I went out and I hit golf balls that day, and my wife said, you need to be home when they make that announcement. So I came home 5 minutes before the announcements, and I walked in the room, turned it on, and as they walked up to the podium, I walked out of the room. I went downstairs, and I just listened for my wife upstairs, and I heard her 5 minutes later scream. And so my reaction was to meet her halfway up the stairs, and I was bawling. I figured it had to be good news, and that's when I found I was in the Hall of Fame. Now, you talk about developing your character. So my reaction was emotions, crying. Talked to Joe Horrigan right after that, and as I was talking to him, I said, I got to tell someone. I needed to call my mom. I called my mom, and I'm letting her know, Mom, I made it. I'm in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm at the pinnacle of what it could be. And she goes, oh, that's great, baby. Hey, did you know Mrs. So-and-so broke her hip in the neighborhood the other day? And so my mom, that grounding, that character of shaping who I am, she was happy that I was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but she wanted to tell me what was happening in the neighborhood. So me being all excited was like, oh, that's great. Let's bring it back down to, let's talk about what's going on with me today. And then it was great. But my reaction was a lot of excitement, a lot of emotion. And even now, when you bring that question up, it brings back that feeling again. So I won't cry here for you though today. I'm gonna hold it in today.
Very good. I love those stories, and I had goosebumps here listening to those stories. And that's probably one of my favorite questions we get in this series is those honest reactions. So thank you for sharing that. We're gonna go then back out to Arizona. If we have a question out there, one more time.
Before we ask our question, can we give a little shout out?
Sure, go ahead.
Go Sun Devils, ready to go.
Go Sun Devils! Thank you.
How did your coaches treat you and your team?
How did my coaches treat me and my team? My coaches were great. I mean, I had some good coaches along the way. I mean, starting in college with Darryl Rogers to coming to the pros with Jerry Burns, and then finishing up with Tony Dungy in Tampa Bay. The coaches treated us well. They always had us prepared very well. They always made sure we dotted the I's and crossed the T's to be ready to play. But my coaches I had throughout my career are always excellent. I mean, and I still talk to them today. My line coach, John Michaels, and I call to check in with him every so often. And when I do call him, before he talks to me, he chews me out as though I was playing for him again. And then he asks me how my life and how my day is going. But That my coaches were great, and they treated us very well.
We're head back out then to New Jersey for one final question from that school.
What character qualities do you believe it takes to be a Hall of Fame player?
What character qualities to be a Hall of Fame player? Let's go start with me. I'll go right down the list. Integrity, respect, commitment. What else do we have? And courage, and then that pursuit of excellence all the time. They all work together. They all intertwine amongst themselves, but you need a little bit of all of them in order to be a Hall of Fame player. You can't be afraid of getting out of your comfort zone. You can't be afraid of doing a little hard work. You can't be afraid to ask questions. I know in this classroom, you're there, the teacher's there, you need to ask questions. That's the same thing if you ever play sports in life. We sit in the classroom more than we sat on the practice field, and all it was questions. You gotta be able to ask those questions. So I think it takes all the characters to be a great Hall of Famer.
Perfect. And as we said at the start of the program, those aren't just characteristics to being a Hall of Fame football player. Those are characteristics to being a great student, a great son, brother, sister. Those go off the field just as well. So we're going to go back out to Zachary Lane. I see we have a young lady out there ready with a question.
Did you learn more about your life from your teammates or coaches?
Oh, wow.
Did I learn more about my life from my teammates or my coaches?
Correct.
Wow. I learned more about my life from my teammates or my coaches.
No easy questions here today.
No, you're not letting me off. More about my life, probably from my teammates. Because a lot of those teammates are now lifelong friends. I still do stuff with them. And they become best friends. So, and I call them true friends because they're willing to tell you when you're doing something that it's not correct. They won't sugarcoat it. They'll be honest with you. And I like friends like that are honest with you, and they're able to just tell you, hey, you probably should have handled that differently, or you should have done this. So I think I'm always learning. I learn more from my friends than I did from the coaches.
Correct.
So my friends have taught me a lot more, and they're still teaching me a lot more. I mean, you're never too old to learn, and you don't ever know where it's coming from. It could be from your friends. It can be from your friend's son that's 8 years old that teaches you things, and you watch him do something. You're like, I should be doing that instead of it. So you learn. So you're never too old to learn from whoever there is out there. But I picked up more from my friends.
SEA, then we'll have our next question if we have a student that's ready out there.
Thank you for answering all our questions today.
Oh, you're welcome. Do you have a question, though?
Yes. What is your favorite book?
Where the Wild Things Are. That was my favorite one to read when I was growing up. It's probably the one that I read to more kids when I go out places.
Very cool. Yeah, we're going to go then out to Northport and see we have a student that's ready there.
I play football. What advice would you give me to be a better student athlete?
Did you hear that, Mr. McDaniel?
I got parts.
He said he plays football, and what advice could you give to him to be a better student athlete?
Oh, wow. Like I said, I always said this to kids about being a better student athlete. When you practice every day, you give 110%. And all your drills, everything you do, you watch the film, you cover everything in football. You make sure everything is done. You run, you eat the right foods, you do all those things to be a great athlete. I say do the same thing in the classroom also. I actually tell some kids, if you just did half of what you did on the football field to get ready, you'll do so much better in the classroom. So we got to do it. So if you want to help your team more, make sure the grades are good. Make sure you're doing all the little things along the way so you can still stay out there and help your team. So being a student athlete is just what it says. It's student first, athlete second. So make sure you're doing all that work in the classroom so you can be a part of that team to help them out along the way.
Okay, then we're going to go out to Meadow Lake. I see we have a student there that's ready.
What are you committed to other than teaching?
What are you committed to other than teaching?
Like my hobbies or something along that, or things I like to do?
Hobbies?
Oh, there's a long list of hobbies out there. What's it, that chasing that pursuit of excellence, all right? So I'm trying to play golf, and I'm never going to be perfect in golf. That is, but it teaches me patience, teaches me perseverance, keeps me coming back, trying to get better. So I like playing golf and trying to pursue those hobbies out there after life. And then, like I said, and I'm always still trying to get better at what I do here in the classroom with kids, working with kids. You can always keep working just to get better.
I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions to complete this loop here. So we're going to go out to Noble Elementary. If we have a student there with our second to last question.
What football player in the NFL shows a lot of character today?
Oh, you guys are going to nail me on this because I don't watch a lot of football today sometimes. So you're going to make me pick a player that shows a lot of character. You know what? I'm going to stick with Teddy Bridgewater. You know why? Right now he's dealing with a lot. The line has a lot of injuries, and he's showing the patience. He's showing that perseverance. He's not giving up. He's still putting in the hard work, knowing that they have those things going on. So I like Teddy Bridgewater because he's patient. I love his patience. Like I said, in pro football, you got to have patience. If you don't have patience, then it's going to be really tough on you to play out there.
All right, we're going to go then out to Forrest for our last question of the day.
How did Tampa Bay compare to playing with the Vikings? Why did you leave the Vikings?
How did Tampa Bay compare to playing with the Vikings? Okay, I'll be honest with you. The Vikings fired me. How's that? It was a business decision, but no, that happens in football. In the end, they let me go. I got to go down to Tampa Bay, and Tony Dungy was a coach with the Minnesota Vikings when I played there and back in the day. So he called me up and said, "Would you like to come down and play for me for a few years?" I love Tony as a coach. I love him as a person and the things that he's done. So it was an easy one. I said, "Yeah, I'll come down and play." So that's how I ended up in the Vikings playing for Tampa Bay. But if you ever ask me how many years I played in football, I will say 14 years. If you ask me which team it was with, I'll say all 14 with the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, I think that's appropriate to end the program on a Minnesota high note. So if we could, I'm going to unmute all of our microphones and we give Mr. McDaniel one last big Hall of Fame round of applause. And all right, Mr. McNeil, I had to mute him because I think that would have went on for maybe an hour or two if I wouldn't have done that. But thank you for your time. If you have any 30 seconds, a minute of any final remarks that you would like to highlight or that we didn't touch on, the floor is yours, sir.
No, I think you guys covered it all. I just appreciate the opportunity to do this today with you guys and talk to all the kids in the classrooms out there. Just thank you. I think everybody did an excellent job out there. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard. And I think things will work out for you in life.
Perfect. Well, thank you, sir, again for your time and for all the advice and knowledge that you share with us today. And I know everyone here at the Hall of Fame appreciates it, from our executive staff on down, Mr. Baker, as you mentioned, Joe Horrigan. So thank you for your time, and hope to see you here in your second home whenever you can. So
all right, I appreciate that.
I know you're at work, so you probably should get back to work. Maybe
I probably should.
So this officially closes the program today. So thank you to everyone, and especially to Mr. McDaniel.
Well, thank you.